We are back. Thanksgiving break is over. And the Pistons had 3 games. Things aren't looking like they were last time we all spoke here. So let me just back up a little bit to the Boston game last week. Oh my God. Like, I really want to jump back and talk about this right now. So they were 15-2. The Pistons were 15-2. I'm ready to give them their grade after 20 days. I said, let's see how these last 3 games go. And I feel like we learned a lot in those 3 games. Good and bad, mostly bad. The 13-game win streak that was tied for the most the Pistons have ever had. So on the line is this 14-game win streak, so some pressure. Still expected to beat Boston, but we already knew that the white boys would show up. They would be fresh out of Tam's pub, probably drunk during the game, and they wouldn't miss a 3. While Dave Portnoy and the Boston fans cheered on racist things from the sidelines, as the Celtics do. And that's exactly what happened. Jaylen Brown turned into his prime self for the most part, and the Pistons did not get it done. I wasn't too worried when you think about the fact that Celtics made 23s. You're making 23s. The Pistons weren't making their 3s. So right there, then and there, it's really tough to win a game that way, especially on the road. What I had an issue with was Cade missing the third free throw of 3 that he was lucky enough to get at the end. We got in that nightmare situation at the very end of the game where the team with the ball is down 3, and then the stupid announcers every time have to say, "Oh, here's a situation. We always talk about it. What's your strategy? Do you foul or do you not foul? Do you foul right away and send them to the line, or do you not want to risk them getting in the act of shooting? I think they should foul right away." You know the best Celtics are going to foul every time because it's stupid, annoying basketball. They need to change the rule. Change the rule. Change the rule. You aren't allowed to intentionally foul in the last couple minutes if the team is up 3 because it's unwatchable and it's cheap and it's stupid. Play defense. Play defense like men. And because of that, it was like 3 times in a row where they fouled, hoping to get them 2 free throws. Cade slings it up quick enough for the refs to call it in the act of shooting. I believe it was a shooting foul, technically. I just was shocked that the Boston refs called that. But, you know, the Bill Simmons Boston type fans thought it was the worst call in history. They thought they were looking at a Megatron catch type call, non-catch type call. You know what I mean? That's a little bit of a cut there, but you think you should know what I mean. They acted like it was ridiculous. And then Cade misses a free throw. Boston ends up clinching the game, ruining the win streak. Jaylen Brown, they interview him after. And the first thing he says, in fact, I'll go ahead and play the clip. This is what he said.
Jaylen, it went all the way down to the last possession. What did it take for your group to close this one out tonight?
Hey, ball don't lie. Ball don't fucking lie.
Jaylen Brown, you spray paint your hair on. You spray paint your hairline. And the spray paint has gotten on other players' jerseys 3 times. And you still continue to do it. Bald, don't lie. Do you know how sick to my stomach I was when I heard him say ball don't lie? I wanted to name this podcast Ball Don't Lie. I might still. It came to me that like 2 hours before that game. I was like, damn, I should call it Ball Don't Lie, since that was coined from Rasheed Wallace, one of the greatest Pistons of all time. So he uses that. Yeah, ball don't lie. Ball don't fucking lie. You dork. I had such respect for Jaylen Brown. I don't really like the Celtics like that. I didn't mind them during the, I actually liked the Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, Rondo, Ray Allen. That shit was fun. That was a fun first super team. Jason Tatum, I was just kind of like, And then Jaylen Brown, I hate him now. I had so much respect that he's like an intern at NASA, like a secret rocket scientist. And I believe his girlfriend is still Kersey, the hottest WNBA player to ever exist. In fact, I think she's out of the WNBA now. She's like, yeah, I kind of don't fit. Sorry. No offense. There's a lot of beautiful WNBA players. Not that the beauty part of it matters. I'm digging a hole here. But either way, she looks good. I respected Jaylen Brown for the pull and his knowledge. Any Boston fan here, enjoy the play-in at most this season with your stupid off-the-bench bullshit white shooters. Even the black shooter is named White. Derek White made 53s that game, most of them contested. Now, it did expose that the Pistons need to clinch down on their 30-foot perimeter threes because, unfortunately, that is a part of the NBA now for teams that have to rely on it. That's what Joe Mazzulla and the Celtics do. We're going to take 45 threes per game. They're going to go in once every 3 games, so we're going to win 33% of our games. That's how I look at it. Absolute 500 record team until Tatum comes back, and by then, who knows what'll happen. Probably have recruited 4 other drunk, redheaded white guys from Tam's bar yelling racial and homophobic slurs to Uber drivers. Anyway, congratulations, Boston, on your biggest win of the season. Look forward to kicking the shit out of that team next times they meet up. So that was definitely a bummer, but it was like, okay, they can get a bounce back game against Orlando. Meanwhile, the Lions season is in shambles. Everything bad that happened. Green Bay beat them up. St. Brown gets injured. We got to watch Micah Parsons and these idiots eat turkey on TV. Ben Johnson and the Bears look like Super Bowl winners. Ben Johnson, the old Lions offensive coordinator, takes his shirt off in the locker room, and they look like just the best vibes in the NFL. Meanwhile, Frank Ragnow, the star center for the Lions, came out of retirement only to go right back into retirement after he failed his physical. It was a nightmare week leading up to, in between all these Pistons games. So we thought, okay, Pistons save us. Also, Red Wings lose a bunch of games. Jeez. So they go against Orlando. This is for advancing on in the NBA Cup. Whoever wins this one goes on to be one of the final teams in Vegas. And once again, issues with turnovers, issues right at the end of the game at the free throw line again. I never thought Cade would have another bricked free throw. He did it again. Actually, twice, if you count the last couple minutes. Didn't have any help from his teammates. So it's tough to, like, on one hand, okay, Cade is playing like this top 10 superstar, but then he has all these stupid turnovers and then is missing clutch free throws. So it's like, okay, well, that might be top 20 shit. You're not being the top 10 player we all think you are. And then those 2 losses, Jalen Duren, I felt like took a step back and didn't really get much out of anybody else. There were some flashes of it, but Duncan Robinson went cold both of those games. Not a lot from Tobias. Blah, blah, blah. The asterisk that you have to put at this is Jaden Ivey, minute adjustments. He looked really uncomfortable in these 2 games. And that's okay. That it eventually needs to iron itself out. But we knew that the rotations were going to be all messed up. And, it could be a bit of a rough patch for the Pistons. Really, it was, but, obviously you can tell now Orlando won that game. Desmond Bane, who looks like an adolescent Tyrannosaurus on steroids. his arms are too short and too strong for his body. He is made of 80% biceps. And all he does is just use his arms to score. He gets 12 feet away from the basket on an angle, and he doesn't miss off of the backboard. And he just barrels his way in with his Larry the Lobster arms. And he played awesome. He killed the Pistons. They looked really good. Orlando, without their star cancer, Paolo, they look like what people were projecting them to be, a top 5 team in the East for sure. The end of that game, there was about 40 seconds left maybe, where Orlando has the ball. They missed 4 shots and got a rebound every time. Anybody watching that game was screaming, "Get a rebound!" What are you doing? Get a rebound. They didn't. And then lost that game. Came down to Cade missing those free throws. So now, with all this going on, luckily I don't give a shit about like Michigan football, but they lost to Ohio State pretty badly. And then the Wings lose again. It's like this is hell week for Detroit and Michigan sports. Apparently, people out here, and the weather just got cold. We're all just sick, throwing up our turkey. Just a terrible Thanksgiving when it comes to the sports parts of it. It's really not that bad, being dramatic here. So Orlando wins that, and they talked a lot of shit. Almost a fight after the game, which I love to see. Stewart pointing in people's faces and saying, we finally got our first Stewart threatening to kill somebody. It took 19 games in the season, and finally Beef Stew threatened somebody's life. I think it was Jalen Suggs, speaking of bald, don't lie. He pointed at basically the whole team and said, "Here's where I'll be. If you want to meet me, I'm going to kill you tonight." They didn't, it's just a bunch of sissy NBA players talking, never fighting. But at least with that, I can't wait for them to meet up. Boston is not an actual threat this year, even though I think they are. They'll be back. It isn't the year this year, to chill out for a while. But Orlando and Detroit, that could be a serious rivalry, especially after that. One thing I'm going to give Magic credit for, their social media team is hilarious. Game has to recognize game there. The Pistons do an excellent job with all of their online content. Obviously, you know this song.
Hey, the Pistons won again. The Pistons won again. Come on.
Maybe you don't know that song, but you do now. Well, Orlando has their own little song, and it sounds like this.
Orlando Magic, Orlando Magic, Orlando Magic. Oh.
It's so stupid, and it's so perfect. If I lived in Orlando with all the gators and the indoor pools and the muggy weather, I would have that song stuck in my head every day, and I'd love it, even if they didn't win. So shout out to them. I thought that was hilarious. And I can't wait till they play again. So finally, the 18 hours after that game, because it was a home game, they blew that. That was their worst loss of the year. They blew the NBA Cup. That's okay. I'd rather have them win in the playoffs than the NBA Cup, but still, it sucked. So then they have to travel to Miami. I heard that it was so after they lose. Picture this: they lose at home, and then you get on an airplane at midnight. Midnight to 4 a.m. You get to your hotel room, wake up at whatever, and play that day. Jalen Duren has a hip contusion all of a sudden, and Karis LeVert was out. Uh-oh. Well, what's going on with Miami this year? They look good. Their recent games, they were on a little bit of a streak. Just got Tyler Hero back. What's his name? Vasquez was out. But Norm Powell is their new X factor this year. They still have Andrew Wiggins, who can go off at any moment. Bam Adebayo's awesome. Kevin Ware. Miami is stacked. That's a playoff team. I slept on them. but they have a really promising team with Eric Spoelstra as their coach still. I would give them anywhere, maybe a 6th seed for them eventually. All of this barring injuries and trades that we don't see coming yet. But the Pistons won that game. But my God. Oh my gosh. Talk about ruining one of your best performances. Impressive. It's about to be a really impressive win on the road. They're beating them down essentially the whole game. They had a 22-point lead. In fact, with 6 minutes left, they have this 20-point lead. And then everything fell apart. Cade got his powers taken away from him from the Space Jam aliens for a good 3 minutes and turned the ball over. He had 8 total turnovers. Asar Thompson did too. All of the turnovers either led to a 3 or an and 1. Before you know it, this 20-point game is cut down to 2 with a minute left, about a minute left or so. In 5 minutes, it was like, what just happened? That is absolutely unacceptable. It just erases everything good that I wanted to talk about for this game. But Cade ended up icing the game with, he got blitzed at the top of the key, kicked it to none other than Danish Jenkins with a major score. Someone that really understands how to break a defensive scheme. And then a couple minutes later, Cade scoops in his jump shot 2 feet in the lane. Kind of like a tall Brunson, almost Harden-esque move with the easy mid-range jumper. They win the game, but it's like, man, these last 4 games, we've seen a fourth quarter collapse in all of them, 4 games in a row. That's a pattern at that point. And that really sucks because now this whole Pistons won again, and the Pistons win streak kind of are like, well, I have some concerns here. But I think this is where you have to come in and add some perspective because, well, they are 20 games into the season. My plan since I started this was to kind of assess them. They say that the first quote unquote quarter of the season would be right around 20 games. That's when you can tell a lot about a team. They're in first place still in the East. They're 16-4. Cade is obviously a star. He has some things to work on, but that's the franchise right there. Duran is, even though the last few games weren't the best, he's still most likely an all-star if he continues at this pace. We want to keep seeing the 19 and 12 numbers. We want to see those numbers instead of Jalen Duran took 8 shots tonight. I think for the most part, they have elite defense, especially when you look at Asar Thompson. The most surprising thing has been the deep bench. Nobody expected Danish Jenkins to do this. We didn't think Paul Reed, even the games where Karis LeVert shows up a lot. I know there's a lot of question marks about him, but I think he's been good. I think Duncan Robinson has been a lot better.
You know you're my favorite white boy, right?
And people recognize he's holding his own defensively. It was rough against Boston. Jalen, he basically seeked out Duncan Robinson during all the switches. And they really, these last few games, I haven't seen the pick and roll work like it has. So there's concerns there. But for the most part, it's been paint dominance. The Pistons dominate the paint. Still need some shooting from the outside. But they're going to continue to just dominate on the block. And they got an excellent coach. I love Bickerstaff. I think he's a front runner for Coach of the Year, especially if they can continue this. I don't think first in the East, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I think it's more realistic to expect them to be a top 3 seed. I say worst case scenario, the season blows up. I mean, they have such a good cushion where are they going to go? Maybe to the 5th seed, and they would still technically be better than last year. How many wins did they have last year? They had 44 wins. So last year, man, this feels like ages ago at this point. Just a reminder, it was Cavaliers 64-18 at first. Wow, what a season they had in the regular season. They ain't doing that again. The Celtics with their whole squad was 61-21. Knicks were 51-31. It felt like they were so much better. Pacers were 50-32. Bucks 48-34. Pistons 44-38. 44-38. They're winning more than 44 games this year. They're going to get above 50. I'm going to say right now they're on pace to do what the Cavs did last year, and I don't see that. Their strength of schedule is going to get way harder. But I see the Pistons getting 54 wins. And if we're telling people that they jumped from 44 to 54 wins when they lost Dennis Schroeder, who, my God, they could have used him these last 3 games. Malik Beasley, they sent him to gambling jail. And then, losing Tim Hardaway Jr., then nobody was expecting 54 wins. Again, anything can happen. That's what I'm expecting. And I would think that puts them in the top 3. I don't know. I'm waiting on the Cavs to start showing up. The Knicks are getting there. The Knicks probably can't be stopped. The Pistons better beat them when it's time, but the Knicks are so talented. It's just what it is. Orlando is a threat. Miami, a threat. And Toronto, man. Toronto is right there. You got to watch out for those guys. I don't know what is going to happen when the Pistons play them, but they're like the diet Pistons, those Canadian dorks. Man, why did their mascot have to be a velociraptor? It's the coolest thing ever. When Vince Carter was on that team, I was in heaven. That's one of my Mount Rushmores, by the way, is Vince Carter. My favorite players of all time, one of them. Westbrook is there. Jaden Ivey is, once he gets going, I'm hoping to see some Westbrookian type stuff from him. I don't mean the turnovers and poor 3-point shooting. I mean the elite athleticism, collapsing the defense, getting other people open. He's going to need to get comfortable sooner or later here. We've given him 5 games so far because eventually the plan is going to be the Pistons start him over Duncan Robinson and expect him to be the secondary scorer. It's just, it's going to take a lot of time to adjust. He's been out for a year. But that's going to have to happen in order for them to keep this up. Last night, Tobias Harris went 10 for 12 and had 26 points. I mean, Uncle T was just on fire, just doing the Detroit hustle and dancing to James Brown. When you're 37 years old in the NBA, you're actually 67. If you're my age, you're actually my dad's age. My dad's actually like 72, but no one ever know that. They think he's 58. They think he's on adrenochrome. I gotta watch it. I could get deplatformed for saying words like adrenochrome, but that's okay. I feel great about the Pistons. My overall grade for them in the first 20 games is a low A-. They have a 90%. Had they kept that streak up, I would have given them a 99. In fact, by the last episode, I was like, this team is exceeded expectations. They get an A for the year. They drop down to a B after those 2 losses, and then closing the game out against Miami after almost blowing it. I mean, shit, the 89-90. They're a really low A-, but we got to keep perspective. They were the worst team in almost sports history about 2 years ago. They were a 6th seed last year, and they weren't as good as they are this year. They keep improving. I think they're going to keep improving this year. They're going to clean up the turnovers, the bad stretches of time where nobody else can score. the rotation issues where it's like, do we play 17 guys or 10? I think they play 12. I'm not a fan of the 12-man rotation, but they're going to figure it out. Pistons will be all right. We got Atlanta let's see, if I put this out Monday, it's tonight. Go against the Hawks. They should be all right. It's tough to beat a team twice, but they can do it. Let's get another winning streak going. Go Pistons.